all busy these days. It's very important that people have access, direct access, a front seat to what's going on in their government, because it really affects them.
It's great to have that opportunity to communicate, and people do appreciate it. People are tuned in, they're watching, I hope they're learning something, and it's an opportunity, as I said, for me to help the people who I represent understand some of the things that are going on down here that they might not otherwise have an opportunity to learn about.
I think it serves two important functions. It gets information out, but it's also community stuff. So I think it provides a cohesiveness to our community.
Welcome to Capitol Update's special program featuring MACTA Day at the Capitol. I'm Chris Vogt, Productions Manager of the Lake Minnetonka Communications Commission. What you just saw were portions of interviews with the state legislators we were fortunate enough to speak with at the Capitol. With me is Sally Kennecke, Executive Director of the LMCC and President of MACTA. Sally, can you tell us about MACTA and give us a little background on this event?
Sure, Chris. MACTA stands for the Minnesota Association of Community Telecommunications Administrators. And we held the event the day at the Capitol to give MACTA members the opportunity to be updated on 2008 legislation and meet with state legislators. We started the day with updates and observations at the League of Minnesota Cities building. MACTA is the organization that lobbies for and supports local regulation of cable television and community television programming. We have 113 members in the state comprised of cities and communications commissions such as the LMCC. MACTA has a legislative committee that is very active and follows legislation closely and often advises members of MACTA on legislation and how to communicate with our legislators.
Now, there has been some specific legislation this year. Sally, can you give us an overview of where the legislation is focused?
Sure. As you're aware, there have been a number of bills in different states that have tried to shift the focus of regulation to the state level. And Minnesota was considering such a bill this session. And it didn't go through, but what they decided to do was to look at doing a study committee to study the effects of these bills in other states, which you're very aware of.
Yeah, I was going to say one of the greatest concern is the threat to community television and the ability for people to actually watch our shows. One of the fears that we've been reading about is what happens when they take the programming, which has been what people are used to is on channels 8, 12, 20, 8 through 20 in terms of being able to see that, and then getting it sent to no man's land up in the upper tier 90 through 100. Well, what's the problem with that? Well, if you're that high, who actually is going to be able to see your programming? And that's one of the great concerns, and we've got to try to make sure that that doesn't happen.
Right, and one thing about being on 99 is what they've been doing is putting it on 99 with a drop-down menu. And I've been reading a number of articles what the effects of this might be. And this particular article was from the Community Media Review that the Alliance for Community Media puts out. And some of the things that to add to what you're saying is that they cannot be recorded on DVR. That there's only 25% resolution, which, as you know, in years past when we were doing VHS, the quality of our programming was a little less, was a little blurry. Well, we don't want to go back to those days. It might also have a smaller picture and then a stutter when used for sports, dance, or motion, and that would be disastrous to us because we do a lot of school sports.
Exactly, and again, and this is why the whole MACTA Day at the Capitol came together in the first place. It's us, going to the Capitol and talking to our state legislators. And again, we asked our legislators about the idea of a study such as this, and what are the effects of state legislation on community media. Let's hear what they had to say.
The way I operate as a state rep, and I think everyone here does and should, is to represent their district, the citizens, but also we rely a little bit on lobbyists for real factual information, and that's where you come in to tell me what we may or may not do here and how that affects community television, because the goal is to have good community service on the television. So whatever comes along by way of legislation, I probably will be looking to you for advice.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to learning more about the study that's proposed, and as that legislation, if potential legislation goes forward, absolutely, everybody who votes on that bill needs to have all the facts. And one of the facts out there that needs to come to the table is the good that LMCC and community television does. And as we go forward, I will make sure that my colleagues at the Capitol understand how important this is, not only to LMCC as an institution, but more importantly to the people of the Lake Minnetonka area who really appreciate the work you do. Obviously, you guys made an effort to come down and see us at the Capitol. We appreciate that too, and all that you do. So I look forward to learning more as the study goes forward, but absolutely will remain open to hearing the concerns of LMCC, yourself, Chris, and all the viewers. So I welcome those.
Well, I rarely have much concern about doing studies because I think that it's important for us to always take a second look at what we're doing and why we're doing it. I think that community television is going to come out just fine because it's clear to me that that there is a role and good value, and I think that's going to come through loud and clear on the study. So I never have a problem taking another look. I think it's good. I think we all ought to be held accountable for what we do and what we don't do, and I think it's a good I guess temperature check. And I feel very confident that community television is going to fare real well.
I'm going to add one more thing to that, Chris, and that is probably the main issue, and that is that in many of these states where they're passing state legislation is they're losing their PEG funding, which would mean that local programming would go away. MACTA has many partner affiliations in support of community television, which is good for us. The League of Minnesota Cities and the Alliance for Community Media are two of these. Both of these organizations were represented at the Day at the Capitol. And Mike Wassenaar, who is on the board for the Alliance, offered some reasons why community television is vital to the public interest. So let's go there and find out what he had to say.
I'm involved with a lot of discussions happening not just in Minnesota, but in other states around the country. As I think about my friends in Ohio, North Carolina, Texas, Tennessee, Wisconsin, Michigan, Indiana, Iowa, Kansas, Virginia, and Missouri, I often think about how lucky I am to live in Minnesota, because they've all been screwed royally by bad legislation that has been meant to diminish public interest and diminish community television. In no small part because they did not have, they didn't have the luck to live in Minnesota, in states like ours that have strong telecommunications law, strong traditions of serving the public interest, a strong history of leadership of people who helped to shape law, which MACTA has been a part of over the course of the last 20, 25 years. So I really want to challenge us. Think about that as you think about the services that you provide today, as you're talking with your legislators. And I think that we really need to kind of hone in on this as we're talking about community television politically. In terms of the freedoms that we protect, the education that we provide, the strong, traditional civic engagement that we're part of in Minnesota. Okay, and then also, the role that the public interest plays in our work.
Now, Sally, as you know, our state legislators have participated in the LMCC's Capital Update program since the mid-1980s.
That's right, Chris. Capital Update has given legislators the opportunity to inform area residents about what legislation is pending and what impact that might have.
And again, this is, like you had mentioned before, this is a program that has been going on for many years. Our state reps, Paul Cole, Steve Smith, many others, have come right here to the LMCC studio to tape the show. And again, that's the type of relationship we have with them. They've always been very supportive. And again, this is the purpose is to serve our community with many types of programs. And again, like we had said, Capital Update is just one of the many government programs that the LMCC offers on our local channels. We have 14 city council meetings, the LMCD, school board meetings, TACA report, public safety programs, the LMA, and many nonprofit programs, too numerous to mention.
As you know, Chris, the LMCC has been providing this service since 1984 and has been providing this information on our local channels for all these years. And now we're streaming much of this information and programming via the internet. And we have found that this has been a great promotional tool for local programming. There's cross-promotion.
Exactly, and again, when it comes to that kind of stuff, we always have to be constantly searching out new ways of reaching our viewers in our area, and web streaming really has been a wonderful thing, I think. Now again, we'd really like to thank our representatives, Steve Smith, Paul Coles, and John Burns, for taking their time to talk about our service and offer their support. Let's finish the program with more of their thoughts on the importance of community television.
I thought I'd ask Steve what his involvement with community television was and how he got started using community television as a tool for community communication. Steve?
Well, thanks, Sally. Yes, I was elected to the Mound Council, City Council in 1984, and 2 years as council and then 2 terms as mayor. But I didn't get elected necessarily by saying how great things were running at the time. I wanted to make sure that the public knew everything that was going on in City Hall. So I made a suggestion at a council meeting that since cable had just come on in the lake area and in Mound, that we take advantage of community television and have our Mound Council meetings televised for later viewing. And boy, did it catch on. People really started watching. And so I think Mound might have been one of the first, if not the first, local cities to have local coverage of its Mound City Council meetings. And of course now here at the Capitol, we have television, and it's a given.
And there's lots of ways for us to communicate with constituents. There's lots of ways elected officials get in touch with people. We do it through email, through websites, but a crucial way to do that is through LMCC and community television. And I have received probably more positive comments from constituents because of community television than any of the other media that I've used.
It's a great service for, I believe, the local community. It's a great service for me. It helps me get my message out to the people that I have the good fortune to represent, and share a little bit about what's going on here at the Capitol. There's so much that happens down here on a day-in, day-out basis, and it's really difficult for the average citizen to follow things with any great level of detail. Sure, you can get information, in a 30-second soundbite on the evening news or a story here or there in the local paper, but the Capitol Update program, for example, is an opportunity for myself and some of the other legislators from the area to sit down and spend a half an hour talking about some of the issues that we're dealing with.